We have to stand up now more than ever. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into The Divide. If you're listening in there and on the internet, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, the Marcus C. Williams channel. Subscribe there and hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Let's have some of the real conversations that we need to have. You are listening to The Divide on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. We appreciate you tuning in today. We're going to jump into some of the more serious topics here without delay. In our nation right now, there is a large amount of division that is continuing to go on. And you have to start to ask yourself, who is pushing it and what's going on and what's being done about it? You know, we've got people saying, oh, well, I'm Democrat, or, oh, well, I'm Republican, or, oh, I'm this, I'm that. And the fact of the matter is, are we not all Americans? Because you have to start to ask yourself that, because there are those people in this country, in our very country, that don't seem to care that we as American citizens actually have a country that is not part of every other country on the globe. We've got people here in our country that are advocating for foreigners and illegal aliens over our own citizens. And I want to exemplify that by talking about Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota this week. Just yesterday, we had these crazy crackpots talking about, oh, well, they're protesting ICE, march into a service of a Christian church, interrupting the Christian church, this Baptist church, while they're in service, talking about they're protesting ICE. They have no business, the audacity. They're in there trying to intimidate the people inside the church. This is a open hate crime. Can we talk about that? You don't barge into any house of worship talking about, oh, well, we're protesting this or we're protesting that. That's a hate crime. They wouldn't do this to a synagogue or to a mosque, because if they did that to a synagogue or a mosque, they'd already all be in prison. But because they're Christians, they can do whatever they want to Christians and nobody ever gets in trouble. Our elected officials don't speak up for Christians. When have you ever heard them speak up for Christians? They're like, oh, like I live in New York State. Our governor's like, oh, let's do stuff for the synagogues. What about the churches? Oh, let's do stuff for the mosques. What about the churches? Do Christians not matter? Christians matter. We matter. We are the only religion that you can mock, make fun of, tear down, deprecate, and pose as, and nothing ever happens to you. Why is this going on? And my question to you guys is, where is the church? Like the body of Christ? You know, like I have a strong rebuke for the whole church right now. That's anybody that considers themselves a member of the ecclesia. Okay, if you identify as a Christian and you are in America right now, why are you not standing up? Do you not see that we are under attack? And I've brought this up many times. If this is your first time tuning into our show, thank you for joining. Please subscribe and share my videos. But I've brought this up time and time again. Christianity is under attack. We are under attack in this country. And it's continuing to happen over and over again. And nobody is saying anything or speaking up for Christians. None of our elected officials, not on the local level, not on the state level, and definitely not on the federal level. Nobody is standing up for Christians. And I need you to identify that we are openly and blatantly under attack after what happened on Sunday, where those crazy crackpots talking about their ICE protesters, really they're anti-Christian domestic terrorists. Okay, and that's what I've been telling you guys that they are from the beginning. From day one, for years, I've been telling you that this is not about being anti-ICE. This is not about being anti-Trump. This is not about being anti-right. Okay, this is them being anti-Christian. All of this stuff, all of everything that we see is about them tearing down the Christian religion. They mock us. They put all of these pride events on saying, oh, we're Christian, we're Christian. You're not Christian. You're in apostasy. You're cosplaying as a Christian. You're playing in our face. And you wouldn't do that to the Jews. You wouldn't do that to the Muslims. Now we got this ridiculous nonsense talking about, oh, Muslim Heritage Month. There's no such thing as Muslim heritage. That's retarded, okay? There's no such thing as Muslim heritage. You want to know why? Because heritage is based off of ethnicity. I'll give you very lightly, maybe race, but not even race. It's ethnicity. Every month that we have a Heritage Month, Black Heritage Month, that's an ethnicity. Hispanic Heritage Month, that's an ethnicity. Okay, Scottish Heritage Month, that is an ethnicity. All of these things are ethnicities. Okay, Islam is not an ethnicity, and we need to be very open and have a serious conversation about that. Talking about Muslim Heritage Month, get that nonsense out of my face. It's ridiculous, and we have to tolerate. We're supposed to tolerate this. I don't know what Bible you guys are reading. Nowhere in the scriptures, and none of the church fathers would be tolerant of this nonsense. And the Bible repeats over and over again, if you are not a part of the church, if you are not part of the ecclesia, you are an apostate. You are an affront to God, the Father himself. And we just sit here and let these people play in our face and be deprecative of everything that we do. They tear down everything that we're supposed to stand for, and we're supposed to just let it go. We're supposed to just let it go. Yep, you're right. Don Lemon should be on trial. I'm about to get to that in a second. This is a serious problem. It's a serious problem. So somebody said, what is this stream about? Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time here, this is The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. Okay. Every week we talk about different issues in our country and locally, and encourage people to get active locally, because that's the only way we're really going to make change in our nation, is for us to get active locally. But the problem right now, what we're seeing nationwide, especially what we just saw in St. Paul, is these crazy crackpots feel like they can do whatever they want, that they can interrupt our church services, and that they'll just get away with it. That was an open hate crime. But nobody talks about the hate crimes that are continue to be attacks on Christianity. Somebody said they need to be deported, and it's a lot of them do. A lot of them do. But not everybody is a illegal alien. And that's something that we need to have a conversation about as well. We really need to have that conversation, because I don't think a lot of people understand. Like in Minnesota, a lot of those people, now their main focus in Minnesota is the Somalis, right? And they'll say, oh, well, Islam this, Islam that. But a lot of them will say, oh, okay, well, they need to be deported. But a lot of those people out there, I need you guys to understand, are citizens, or they're naturalized, or they have their green cards. They do. So unless we denaturalize those people out there, nothing's going to happen. But if you look at the people that are really running a raw riot out there, a real look at it, those people are actual American-born citizens. And that's a serious problem. It's a serious problem. I see you talking about the sanctuary cities. We'll get to that in a minute. But these things that we're seeing right now are very problematic. And I'm going to tell you why. We have to stand up now. If you look at what just happened at this church, I guess the guy has the same name as a guy that is one of the temporary interim directors of ICE or something out there. I don't care if he's the grand poobah of ICE, to be honest. We saw Don Lemon break into this church with the rest of this mob, okay, riotous group, okay, anti-Christian hate group. We saw him go in there with them, and he's all in the pastor's face and all of this and all of that, talking about, they're just expressing their First Amendment to break into a private mass, to disrupt private worship in a house of worship. That's not the First Amendment. First of all, the First Amendment only applies to redressing your grievances with the government, but that's a whole nother serious conversation that we need to have at some point, because it's clear that a lot of people don't understand civics. It's really problematic that we see what's going on and not enough people are standing up. We have to stand up now. We have to. And if we don't stand up now, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Now, let me get back to this priest, this pastor, whatever. So Don Lemon is all in his face talking about, what do you think about this? What do you da 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 da? Man, get out my face, Don Lemon. But the guy was really, really genteel about the whole situation, trying to pay attention to what's going on with the crazy people that are in his area at the same time as Don Lemon's got this microphone and camera in his face, talking all crazy outside of his neck. And the pastor is like, listen, you know, I'm trying to have church. We're trying to pray and worship. And if you're not here to pray and worship, leave. You know, the pastor made a very serious point, and I don't think enough people understood the point that he was making. He said, you know, he said, this is a worship service. He said, this is about worshiping God. And that should have been the whole point right there that everybody took home. It's not about him. These people broke into the church during their service to cause problems. Nowhere else in the world would this type of activity be allowed. No other place would allow this. The mosques wouldn't allow this. The synagogues wouldn't allow this. No Hindu temple is going to allow this. But because it's Christians, it's okay. Make it make sense to me. And this is what we need to have a conversation about. So let's start here. Drop a comment below, hit the like, hit the share button. You are tuned into The Divide on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio with Marcus C. Williams. Hey, Theo, I see you there. Thank you. I appreciate you. Hit the share button and the like button, you guys. So as we have these important conversations, let's talk about one of the most important things that we possibly can. The continued disruption and mockery of the Christian religion. We need to talk about that. And I know not everybody is Christian, and honestly, I don't care if you're not Christian. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you look towards Jesus and you find the teachings of Jesus and you read the New Testament, and it brings you closer to the Lord our Father in heaven above. The fact of the matter is, there is only one true religion. That is Christianity. All other religions are fake religions. There are some people out there that will say, oh, well, there is no God or whatever. Listen, good luck with that. May you seek Jesus and turn your face to the Lord our Father. Okay, this is something that's important. Everything that we look at that's happening in our country is demonic. You know, at the end of the day, you know, there's this joke online that if you go down the rabbit hole far enough, you'll find that it's a demonic action against God himself. And it's true. It's true. What is globalism but a demonic action against God himself? What is all of this perversion of the children except a demonic action against God himself? What is all the rest of this nonsense that's going on except an actual action against the Lord himself? Can we have that conversation? I think we need to. Now more than ever, because if we don't, who's going to? Who's going to? Nobody's going to. The deterioration of our nation, the great United States of America, is completely because it's an attack on God the Father himself. That's what all of this is about. Seeing how much they can turn our people away from the Father. Again and again, we see this. We look at these schools and they're teaching socialism and communism and all of this ridiculous left nonsense, that a boy doesn't have to be a boy and a girl doesn't have to be a girl and all of these other things. All of it is demonic. That's what these things are. This is demonry active in our society every single day. These people are promoting evil, satanic nonsense. That's why they want to break up the family. That's why they want you to murder your babies. That's why they want you to murder the elders. That's why they're okay with all of these criminals running amok everywhere. Can we have that serious question, though? Why don't they put the criminals in jail? Because they don't want to punish crime. Because if you punish crime expeditiously, then you're doing something that's righteous. And that's a serious conversation. But can we even start to have that conversation? I don't think most people want that conversation. That's why we need to stand up. We look at so many issues across our nation right now, and they put it, oh, well, it's Democrat, oh, well, it's Republican. Let me be very straight and frank. I am a Republican, and I have no shame in saying that. But first and foremost, I am a child of the Most High. I am a Christian. Okay? I believe in our nation. I love my nation. I love my country above all else. Okay? I would be considered a nationalist, and I accept that very firmly. Just don't put nationalist in front of Christian, because I'm a Christian before anything else. You know? But they've painted this picture where if you're a Christian and you believe in Christ and you believe in standing up against evil, that something's wrong with you. They try to make it, oh, well, if you're a nationalist and you believe in your country, there's something wrong with you. Israel can be a nationalist nation. They're very clearly a nationalist nation. India can be a nationalist nation. They're very clearly a nationalist nation. China is super ultra national. Okay. Like, and it's okay for them, but it's not for us. Why can't we have that conversation? Why can't we have that conversation? Every other country, you can be a nationalist, right? Like right now, we've got this issue going on with Denmark or whatever the case is. We're trying to get Greenland. And they're like, oh, they should have pride in being Danish and this, that, and the third. But if we have American pride, if we are proud to be Americans, then it's a problem. Make it make sense to me. Like, this is the problem. You can be proud of whatever other country you are, but if you are proud of being an American citizen and you want to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance, if you want to stand for our Constitution, if you want to stand for anything like that, okay, and perish the thought you stand for our national anthem, then it is a problem. Why is that? It's not like that for any other country. And the people that are pushing this nonsense are largely American citizens. In other countries, they have their own issues, and I could care less. All of the other countries in the world could fall off the map tomorrow, tonight, 5 minutes from now. Wouldn't make me no bother. I have one concern, and that's the United States of America. I only have one country. That's another big issue, this dual allegiance nonsense. Anybody that has dual allegiance either needs to give up their dual allegiance or they need to be kicked out of the country. We need to start denaturalizing people en masse. That is a very, 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 very serious issue. If you are an American, allegedly, and you do not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, that means that you are not loyal to our country. If you have dual, and this is very important, if you have dual citizenship, you are not loyal to our nation. You've got more than one allegiance. You can't be have allegiance to more than one country at one time. Make it make sense. Who said that? That's who says, yeah, Debbie, I see you out there. Make it make sense, Debbie. You know, like, this is crazy. And nobody wants to have this conversation. Like, we've got people protesting in the street, waving Mexican flags. We've got people out here protesting in the street, waving flags for Palestine. We got people out here in our country waving flags of foreign countries, talking about they're standing up against the United States of America inside of America. They all need to be in prison. Okay, and some people will say, well, Marcus, that's a little much. It's not a little much. These people have clearly come to tear our country apart. They've clearly come to sow division, and they clearly support another nation over the United States of America. Why would we possibly tolerate that? They would tolerate that in no other country. And these are the conversations that we need to have. These are the conversations. Somebody said, oh, First Amendment rights. You don't know what the First Amendment is. You don't. The First Amendment is to redress your grievances with our government, right? Not for foreigners to come and sow division in our nation. It's for our own citizens to redress their grievances with our government. But the second that you pick up a foreign flag, you're saying that you stand for a foreign entity, that you stand for foreign interests, and you do not stand for the American citizens. Okay? You can say what you want, but our Constitution, our Bill of Rights is not for anybody from any other country. That's the problem. And I don't like us playing world police. I am definitely not a war hawk at all. I think that we should stay inside our own country and mind our own business. I do like this whole mind our own hemisphere type of situation we got going on right now. I do like that. Okay? Because I very much so stand for Imperial America. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like that. No expansionism, whatever. Shut up. I don't care what you think. Okay? Because if we are to taking all of these foreigners that you guys love so much, and we don't get the resources and we don't get the territories to help out with all of these foreigners, make it make sense to me. I'm more than happy to accept all of the foreigners from all these other countries. Give us 10 generations worth of resources for each one of them that is here. 10 generations worth of resources from each country that is having these people in our nation. Give it to us. Give it to us now, not later. And then we'll take them. We'll take them all. Okay? And this is the issue. This is the issue. These same people that hate America so much are the ones that are here that are willing to say, oh, well, we love Iran, which is now the new thing. They're standing up and protesting in favor of the Ayatollah and other nonsense. You know, what are we even doing? What are we even doing? Somebody said expansionism started World War II. You have no clue what you're talking about. Not even a little bit. World War I what was done to Germany was what caused World War II. It had nothing to do with expansionism. Okay? It was the poor treatment of the Germans and the whole family feud that they had in Europe. If you guys aren't familiar with European history, okay, all the way through World War II, most of these countries were all cousins. All of them were cousins. In World War I, every nation that fought in World War I was one of Queen Victoria's like nephews or what do you call them? Nephews or sons or whatever the case is. Like, it's crazy. Like, but can we have that conversation? No, don't nobody want to have that conversation. So whatever you're talking about, that's nonsense. So as we talk about what's going on right now, I want to get back to Greenland for a second. Okay? Greenland is in the Arctic Circle. Okay? It's got about 50,000 people that live on Greenland. Okay, most identify as native people to the land or call themselves Inuit or Indian or whatever they want. Okay, it doesn't really matter. But what happens is apparently a lot of them are mad that Denmark doesn't recognize them as being native to the land. I don't know. That's their own issue that they got to work out with Denmark. But right now, we're working on getting Greenland from Denmark because Denmark can't hold Greenland anyway. They have no military. How big is Denmark's military? They can barely defend Denmark if something were to happen. And that's happened before during World War II, James. James is online talking a bunch of trash. But anyway, but that happened during World War II. The Nazis rolled right into Denmark. Denmark rolled over like a dead dog. Okay? Like, can we have that serious conversation? No, we can't have that conversation. We've had troops in Denmark since World War II, not in Denmark. Well, I mean, I guess technically Greenland is Denmark, and we do have some bases in actual Denmark proper. But we've had troops there since World War II, and we've got far less troops now than we used to have there. We used to have a number of different bases open now. Now we've only got a couple. So for everybody saying, oh, well, it's an issue or whatever, we used to have more troops stationed in Greenland than there were almost people that lived in Greenland. So that's very much so a good conversation to have. Now we don't, because our policies have changed, because, you know, there's a weaker Germany now, and that Germany is its whole own issue, really, that we should talk about at some point. You can't trust Germany. That's a whole fact. And we need to be very, very cognizant of that. Speaking of Germany, Poland, because they're part of the EU, they've just changed their marriage certificates to say spouse 1 and spouse 2 to more so fall in line with the EU's laws, and they've removed male and female on the marriage certificates. Make that make sense to me. Make that make sense to me. Like Poland, I thought y'all was doing something, you know? I thought y'all were standing. The fall of Poland, you know, like these are serious conversations. You know, nowhere is safe because everywhere there is an attack on Christianity. And that's why we must stand up now, not later, not when things get worse. Because as we continue not to stand, things will continue to get worse, bit by bit, little by little. How do you think that the socialists and the communists have taken over our nation so much so? We need to actually have that conversation. It's because evil prospers when good men do nothing, right? And here we are now. Here we are now. the socialists and the far left, they run all of the institutions. They're indoctrinating all of the children. You're letting the enemy teach your kids. You're letting the enemy teach your kids, and then you're wondering how they turned out so cracked up. We got all of these crazy people out here marching in the streets talking about, oh, we're standing against ICE and we're fighting in rebellion against the United States. For what? For foreigners, yo? For illegal aliens? And let me be very clear on this point, because I think this is important to talk about. Right now, what we see going on with all of these illegal aliens and these people so-called standing up for them or whatever the case is, DHS is going after illegal aliens that are active criminals, you know, and people say, oh, no, they're just picking up random people. No, what's happening is because these different states and different cities won't let them pick up the people that are the actual criminals from places like jail and stuff like that, that they have to go out and they have to mobilize to pick these people up off the street. Because the jails in all of these crazy crackpot so-called sanctuary city areas won't give up the illegal foreigners. Why won't you do that? You know, and then it's because they're in open rebellion against the government. I don't know. You're standing up for foreigners, but you're not standing up for American citizens. You got to make it make sense. And then let's look at the facts. All of these states, New York, Minnesota, okay, California, talking about they're standing up against the federal government. What nonsense? You guys are the problems for your own citizens. California just ran a number of different gas companies out of California, that's going to skyrocket the price of gas in California, and it was already the highest in the nation in California. Make it make sense. It's higher in California than it is in parts of Alaska. Make it make sense. We need to have these conversations. We look at New York, we got all these high energy costs and stuff like that. And people are like, oh, well, Trump said he was going to bring down the energy costs. Well, Trump can't bring down the energy costs in different states because of the crazy policies from the state. Our state has terrible policies in New York State. We've got anti-energy legislation here. They've shut down a number of pipeline projects, okay, for natural gas, which is what more than 60% of our energy is derived from. Most of your electricity, you guys, if you live in New York State, comes from natural gas. Okay? Like, can we have a conversation about that? But they're out here celebrating shutting down gas pipeline projects in New York State. Like, you can't make this stuff up. Go look it up. They're out here celebrating shutting down nuclear power plants. Now Kathy Hochul has decided that, oh, she's going to open up another nuclear plant or whatever the case is, because she saw that the federal government is like, okay, well, we're giving out cash incentives to actually do some nuclear power plants and stuff like that. And she's like, well, let me figure out how I can get this nonsense for the stuff for myself and my husband, because Buffalo Billions, if you guys aren't aware of what happened in New York State with Kathy Hochul's husband and him getting all of this money from the Buffalo Bills stadium, go look into that too. Like, it's so much corruption here. It's so much corruption here. Somebody said something about $3 for bus rides in New York. Yeah, you're talking about in the city, right? Yeah, the bus fares just went up in New York City. Again, this is because of the terrible policies that are going on from our state government. And we can't talk about that. They're like, oh, we're going to encourage more people to ride the bus. Why are the bus fares going up? The MTA loses, what is it, something like $20 billion a year? Maybe it's not billion. Maybe it's 15 billion or something like that. But they don't make any profit. It's like the Amtrak. Amtrak has never made any money in the whole history of its existence. Go look that up. Like, these are the important conversations we're not having. We need to have these conversations. Somebody says the Democrats are the most corrupt people in the world. Look, it is right now in politics and in many of the Democrat-run states. That's where you see a lot of the corruption. It is a lot of the open corruption, but there's Republican corruption too. That's not that's not a thing that can go unsaid. Like, I don't know how Lindsey Graham still has an office. Like, that needs to be investigated. How he's even, nobody likes Lindsey Graham. And Trump keeps throwing him at us. Nobody likes Lindsey Graham is terrible. Okay, Lindsey Graham is like, what's the other guy's name? The one that looks like a tadpole. I can't remember his name. It's Mitch McConnell. You know, him and his wife, his Chinese, what do you call it? Chinese informant wife. okay, who's a member of a Chinese shipping magnate. Don't get me started on her and him. He's another one that's a problem. But these are the conversations we need to have. Somebody said the Dems want everyone weak, angry, and fighting, addicted to drugs, alcohol, and they rinse taxpayers' cash. Yeah, they're out here doing stuff that keeps people distracted, right? And also at the same time, though, it's the Republicans that are not standing on business. I can't remember. I just saw Anna Paul Luna. No, it wasn't Anna Paul Luna. It was Myra Flores. Love her too. They're both pretty good. But she just put out a post about somebody's Liberty score that they're trying to run. I think it's either in Texas or Illinois. I mean, not Illinois, Louisiana, Texas or Louisiana. And this lady has like a Liberty score of a D. And Trump just endorsed her. Well, but this is part of the problem. And I've talked about this before in other episodes. We got all of these people that are claiming to be Democrats, but they're not, that are claiming to be Republicans, but they're not standing up for America First issues. They're not standing up for America First. They're the ones like these, all of those ones that just the 81 Republicans that just voted for the National Endowment of Democracy to give them millions, was it something like a ton of millions of dollars? I don't want to get the number wrong because I don't like being wrong, but it was like a ton of money. I don't know whether it was, I don't remember whether it was 32 million or 410 million. It was a lot of money. Okay. And we need to have these conversations. But nobody wants to have these conversations. These are very, very, very important for us to have. And we need to talk about them now, not later. All of these people are masquerading out here as Republicans and stuff like that when they don't have a conservative bone in their body. We got people that are registered Democrats that I would consider left that are more conservative than some of these Republicans playing in our face. Then you got a lot of them that are representing foreign interests. Okay. And the Democrats too. Look at Bob Melendez. You know, he was getting all that gold and stuff, you know, crazy nonsense. But these are things that we need to have a conversation about. Who's standing up for our citizens? Who's putting America first? Who's standing up for American values? Who's standing up at all? Can we have that conversation? We need to have that conversation now, more than ever. Where are all of the Republicans that are willing to stand up for specifically our country? We've got like, what do you call them? Chip Roy and Mike Lee and stuff like that. They put forth a bill. It's called the SAVE Act. You know, it's to protect the integrity of our elections. Okay. But why don't Democrats want to vote for that? All the bill basically says is essentially, if you're a foreigner, you can't vote in American elections. But that's already what the Constitution says. But Democrats don't want to vote for that. Why is that they don't want to protect our elections? Can we have that serious conversation? No, we can't have that serious conversations. Because if we actually talked about the importance of securing our elections, making sure that only American citizens are the ones voting in our elections, then the conversation would be too much like right. I live in New York State. Our governor said, "Oh, black people are too stupid to get IDs, so we can't have voter ID." Who are you to call black people stupid? This is the same lady that said, and I'm paraphrasing her, but this is the same lady that said that black people in, was it Brooklyn or the Bronx? I think it was Brooklyn. Black people in Brooklyn don't even know how to use a computer. Who in the HE double hockey sticks does she think she is? That's my governor. That's how she talks about black people. Okay? Like, that's ridiculous. And remember, these are the same people that play in your face, tell you that they care about black people. Oh, they care this, they care that. They don't care about anything except staying in power. That's all they care about. And they're willing to exploit every single citizen in our country so that they can stay in power. That's what they're doing consistently. Over and over again, we see that in every single Democrat state. Look at Minnesota right now with all of this foreign fraud, right? Fraud by all of these Somalians, right? And people are like, oh, well, the Somalians, and we talked about this earlier, like a lot of those Somalians are actual citizens, which is a whole nother conversation. But you look at the people who have been pushing this stuff behind the scenes, and it's to specifically one specific community. Now, if you look on on the numbers, whose people does that hurt the most? Well, it hurts black people the most, but they say that they care about black people. But these Somalians are siphoning away all this money from black communities. You make it make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. Okay, explain it to me like I'm 5. If they care so much truly, how come they're siphoning money away from our black communities to the tunes of hundreds of billions of dollars a year? Can we have that conversation? I don't know that we can. I don't know that we can. And I don't know that a lot of people want to have these conversations. This is the problem. This is a serious, serious problem. Somebody said Somalia doesn't have black people. Thank you for bringing that conversation up. No, Somalia does not have black people. Somalians are Somali. Okay? They're not black. Black is an ethno-nationality. It's like Scottish. It's like Japanese. Black Americans are of this land. Okay? Black is short for Black American. It doesn't mean anything else or any other country or nobody else. The closest people that you can get to say that they can even consider themselves black are the black fella from Australia, because they call themselves the black fella, and they have for generations. So there needs to be a conversation about the disambiguation of language and also the history of the reclassification of black Americans from American Indian to Negro and to colored and to all of these other things, because that's where colored comes from. If you guys aren't familiar, it comes from the copper colored people, because most black Americans are American Indian. So that's where that comes from. The term colored comes from the copper colored people. See, but this is about America history. If we actually look in and dig into American history, then we would know that. But we're never taught proper American history. They'll tell you, oh, slavery, 1619, America's racist, America's this, America's that. Shut up. Shut up. Because my ancestors didn't die and fight for this country just to stay this country. They could have gone to Mexico. They could have gone to Canada. They could have gone anywhere else in the world. But here they stayed, because this is our country. This is our nation. And that's why we should all be very proud and very thankful for our nation, because look at how many people try to cross the border just to get in our nation. I was at church. Now, my church is very conservative. Okay, Bible-based, very conservative church, traditional church, okay? And I love my church. I wouldn't be anywhere else. We're a bilingual church, and we've got a lot of people from foreign countries as well. So we've got a lot of people from South and Central America. Most of our constituency in the church is either American or Puerto Rican American or Black American or all of the America, right? Like Americans, real Americans. But then we also have like some Venezuelans. We have some people from other countries, Cuba, okay, Cuban Americans and stuff like that. But we were having a conversation about one of our parishioners this week and how they haven't given their life to Christ yet. May they know Christ. Pray for them. But they crossed the Darien Gap and they went through all of that nonsense to end up over here. And they're traumatized. So they're in the hospital right now and they're suffering because of it. So people will put themselves through all of these hardships to come into this country. And that's what I need these crazy crackpots out here talking about, down with America, down with the government, down with all of this, down with all of that. People will risk their life and limb and their children, okay, many having their children molested and raped and all types of other stuff on the way up. I was watching one of the documentaries. You know, they do the documentaries on what happens in the stuff and things like that. And it was like 1 in 4 people and up to 2/3 of the females are sexually assaulted on the way up. That's crazy, y'all. That's crazy. And people will risk going through all of that to come to be in this country. But we've got people in this country right now that hate our nation so much that they would try to recraft the image of our nation to look like some other foreign place. Make it make sense. They should give up their citizenship to some of these other people. Talking about they care about them so much. They don't. They don't care about anybody. They care about self-righteousness. But can we have that conversation? No, nobody wants to have that conversation. These people are really out of their minds. And they try to tell you, oh, well, we're standing up and we're fighting back against the government. For what, bro? For what? If you guys are new here, and I encourage you, hit the like button, hit the share button. And if you're listening to us on the radio, make sure you tell all your friends, your family, your enemies, the people up the street, the people down the street. On Mondays, tune in from 2:30 to 4 p.m. to The Divide on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. But as we have this conversation, y'all, as we have this conversation, these people hate our nation. Remember that. They're talking about tearing down our country and having a revolution over foreigners, over illegal aliens. Are you stupid? Like, does your brain not work so good? Now, as an American, as a patriot, and watching how our government is doing us, all the crazy high taxes, all of the crazy infringements on property rights, on the Second Amendment rights, and stuff like this, I think it's far past time to tip the whole thing over and pour it out like a bad batch of tea. I think we're far past that point. But for you to tell me as an proud American citizen that you're going to overthrow my government for foreign interests and foreign nations, you can catch some hands. Like, for real. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? How do we allow these people that are in our country talking about their citizens to talk about they're going to overthrow our government for foreigners? Make it make sense to me. I need somebody to make that make sense. This is a serious problem. It's a serious problem. And they're like, oh, ICE is disrupting our neighborhood by taking away all of these illegal aliens and whatever the case is, No, they're really not. It's you acting a rabid fool outside in public, showing your behind because you can and you want to be self-righteous. We haven't deported half of the people that Obama deported. Obama deported like something like almost 30 million people. I don't even know how he did that. That's amazing to me. We need to deport more people. We need to be putting up Obama numbers. Okay, 25 million people he deported. Crazy nonsense. I wish we're only like a million, maybe. Like, you know what I'm saying? And these people are like, oh, he's tearing apart families and stuff like that. But the same people that are like, oh, well, the ICE is tearing apart families, be real quick to tell a woman, oh, you shouldn't have to be with the father of your child. Oh, girl boss. Oh, girl power. Oh, men aren't anything. You don't need to be with a man. That's these same people talking about breaking up families, okay? Supporting separatism and division in the family. Talking about, oh, well, ICE breaks up families. Are you serious? CPS breaks up families. Can we have a conversation about CPS? Can we have a conversation about the family court system? Like, can we have a conversation about that? Can we have a conversation about the foster care system in the United States of America? Can we have that conversation? Don't play in my face. I saw somebody have a sign the other day talking about ICE doesn't look as hard for the missing children as they do for the illegal aliens. Well, ICE doesn't look for missing children. That's not ICE's job. That's the FBI and other law enforcement agencies for most cases and points. It's the state and the municipal level, and sometimes the sheriff, depending on the way that your structure is, that are supposed to be looking for missing people and missing children. But under the Biden administration, they lost almost 500,000 children. Couldn't find them. Couldn't find them at all. Okay. The number that the what would you call them? The CNN type of people, the CNBC type of people say is over 350,000, but it's more close to 500,000 children that they lost during the Obama administration, during the Biden administration, excuse me. Just didn't know where they went. And then during the Trump administration, they've already found over 150,000 of those children. They've tracked them down, and they saved 13,000 from sex trafficking and from enslavement. Let me say that again. During the Biden administration, over 350,000 children that came here through the southern border went missing, and the government did not know where they were under Biden's administration. Since the Trump administration came into office, 150,000 have been accounted for. 13,000 have been saved from sex trafficking and slavery. Okay, that is something that's very, very important to talk about. But nobody wants to talk about that. Are they fighting to stop all of the child sex slavery in our nation? I watch Tim Tebow's stuff. If you're not familiar with Tim Tebow, used to be a football player. Now he's all anti-human trafficking and anti-child porn stuff. You should watch some of his stuff and check him out. I forget what the name of his organization is, but he's working to help expose and shine some light on the human trafficking, especially the child trafficking in our country. And I don't see these people that are out here protesting for these illegal aliens saying anything about all the human trafficking. Can somebody make it make sense that the #1 export in the United States is blood? How is that possible? How is the #1 export in the United States blood? How does that even happen? Where's that blood coming from? And isn't the Red Cross always crying that they don't have enough blood? Then how can it be our #1 export? How does that happen? And you don't got to believe me, go look it up. Like, this is the crazy stuff that we don't have conversations about. And there's also a huge underground organ harvesting program that's going on in the United States, and that needs to be looked into too. They just regularly call people brain dead when they're not brain dead. That's a whole problem. We need to have a conversation about that. And then they chop up their organs. There's been a number of people here in the city of Rochester, where I live, whose family members and parents were not organ donors, and the hospital harvested their organs anyway. Can we have that conversation? No, we can't. We can't have that conversation. It's ridiculous. But these are serious conversations, things that they could stand up for, things that they could push back against, but they don't. And we have to have these conversations because nobody else wants to, nobody else is willing to. Let's see. 7119 says the Dems have caused a major mental health crisis, a major mental health pandemic. You're absolutely right. There is a major mental health, I don't know what you want to call it, epidemic. I guess epidemic. I could care less about the other countries. We talked about that earlier. Epidemic in our nation because they're telling boys that they don't have to be boys and girls that they don't have to be girls. They're out here fighting for men to be in girls' sports right now at the Supreme Court. How could you stand for that? Do you know how tough it is for girls to excel in sports and then to have to go against boys, okay, that call themselves girls? That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. And we're supposed to just go for that? And then here you are telling all of these girls out there that they can be boys, and these boys that they can be girls. And you're trying to sell that to them? Like they really think in their head because you're taking advantage of them, you're manipulating them, you're brainwashing them, okay, to make them think that they're actually the opposite of what they actually are. And then you wonder why the suicide rate is so high because you can't reconcile that. You might be a tomboy or a tom girl or whatever the case, or be a little effeminate as a male or whatever, be a little masculine as a female. But it doesn't make you the other sex. And it doesn't matter how many hormones or anything like that you take. And you know it. And so many people see that and they suffer because they've been told that, oh, these drugs will make them more like a boy or more like a girl. And nothing's going to make you the opposite sex that you came into this world. Be happy in the body that the Lord, our Father, gave to you because it is a blessing. Because so many people did not make it to birth. Since Roe versus Wade came into existence in our nation, they have murdered over how many millions of babies are we on now? Okay, something like millions upon millions of babies. I don't have the exact number in front of me. I don't want to be wrong. But it's a genocide against our people. We've had more black children, black babies murdered in abortion than we have born. Okay. Since Roe versus Wade. Can we have that conversation? No, we can't have that conversation, because they don't want you to have that conversation. But, they'll tell you to murder your babies because it pays them well. And somebody laughed online talking about, oh, it's a genocide, and they laughed because you hate black people. That's why you're laughing. There's been a continued what a continued movement against Black Americans since the founding of our nation. That's not something that we don't know. I love my country. Don't get it twisted. I'm General America out this piece, okay? I love my country. Nobody loves this country more than I do, you know? But the fact of the matter is I'm not oblivious to what has happened in our nation, okay? And there has been, you look at people like Margaret Sanger, who founded Planned Parenthood. She said that she wanted to push abortion on Black people to eliminate and exterminate the Black race. Like, what are you talking about? Like, people just, it just doesn't, things don't click upstairs. And then this goes back to the Democrats, because she was a Democrat. Okay, the Democrats have been systematically and continuing to attack the Black community since their inception. Slavery, that was the Democrats. The Democrat Party got formed so specifically they could keep that. They can keep slavery. Jim Crow, that was the Democrats. But before Jim Crow, even we had the Reconstruction Act. That was the Democrats. Before the Reconstruction, right after the Civil War, and you can go look this up, please go look this up. It's very important information. We had more Black senators and Black congressmen in the Congress than we do today. Let me say that again. And they were all Republican, by the way. After the Civil War, before the Reconstruction, go look it up, we had more congressmen and senators that were Black Americans than we do today. And they were all Republicans. Make it make sense. And that was done by the Democrats. They pushed them all out with the Reconstruction Act. Then the Democrats did Jim Crow laws. Okay? Then we can continue down the line with all of the horrible things that the Democrats have done. Redlining, Democrats. Okay, we look at the stuff that they've done with healthcare, Democrats. We look at the stuff that they've done with rezoning, Democrats. We look at the stuff that happened under Lyndon B. Johnson, Democrat. Okay, go look into Lyndon B. Johnson. He's just like one of the most terrible people that we've ever had. And he was openly racist. Like, he was a devout racist. Like, that's not even a thing that's in question. Like, and that's crazy. He did so much problematic things to our nation, but also specifically Black Americans. Again, the Democrats. This is the Democrats. Okay? Go look it up. Okay? Who was in charge of, what do you call it? The Great Society Project. The Democrats. Who made it so that churches had to re-register with the IRS so that they wouldn't be as political anymore? The Democrats. You know, like, can we have that conversation? The Democrats have been openly attacking the Black community since before their founding. And it's always been the Democrats, and they try to tell you, oh, the Democrats care or whatever. Everything that is wrong in the Black community today has been pushed on the Black community by Democrats. But we can't talk about that. And now there's this big conversation about how certain areas and schools and stuff like that are still segregated or whatever. Let me tell you right now what an old person told me one time. They said the worst thing that ever happened to the Black community was desegregation. They said that what happened is somebody sold Black people on the idea that the white man's ice was colder than our own. And I'd like to tell him that he was wrong, but he's absolutely right. Before desegregation, we had what? We had our own schools. We had our own businesses. We had our own actual full functioning communities, independent of anybody else. And that was taken from us. Taken from us. We have no Black communities in the whole country. None that are sufficient and efficient themselves. All of them are interdependent on other nonsense. None. We don't have one. Not in the whole country. But we did before desegregation. So what happened? When they pushed that nonsense on Black people, it was to tear apart the Black family. It was all of this happened around the same time with Lyndon B. Johnson, the Great Society Project, the deindustrialization of city centers. What do you call it? The oh my goodness, urban renewal. All of this stuff. All of these things were done by the Democrats. Like, we need to have these serious conversations. Somebody says, just a white boy says, Democrats are anti-family. You're right. Because if you have a strong family is the lowest base of government, right? The father controls the household and leads the family. The government doesn't want that. Because if there's a strong father in the household, if there's a strong church in the community, then people might be able to operate against what the government wants or in their own best interest. And that's not for the government. The government doesn't want that. Why? Because the government wants more and more power. And it was never meant to be that way. That's why a strong family is important. That's why a strong church is important. That's why these things that we're having conversations about are so important. You know, let's see. Somebody else said, let's see, where'd it go? Somebody says, tariffs also stop slave labor abroad cause Americans to purchase American-made goods. Something happened on the screen and it popped away. But yeah, you're right. Tariffs are a good thing because we need to reshore all of our manufacturing to the U.S. Honestly, I don't think that we should be buying anything outside of our country. But the way that things are set up after NAFTA, after Bill Clinton, again, another Democrat, after he sold us out and sent all our jobs abroad, okay, people been hurting. And whose communities have hurt the most? The Black community, but we can't talk about that. And I believe very firmly as Republicans and as conservatives, we need to identify that this is stuff that has been done to the Black community. Because if we don't identify that that's happened, we can't talk about all of the other issues that have come about from that. See, what the Democrats know that a lot of Republicans seem to have missed out on is that Black culture is very heavily influential to our nation, and it always has been. So goes the Blacks, so goes the rest of the nation. And we saw that when they started to break up the Black family. Now we've got a lot more broken white homes. Now we've got a lot more of this other nonsense. They also attack the white people with all this homosexuality, and they push that onto them, which is crazy. You know, and to be clear, same-sex attraction isn't the same thing as being homosexual. That is a personal struggle that many people deal with. And I praise the Lord that that's not my personal struggle, but I understand, and may anybody that identifies as homosexual turn to the Lord and may he help you with that. Okay? Because it's tough. When you don't know what you don't know, right? They used to have this thing, they used to call it the Q in the LGBTQ, right? Okay? In the LGBTQ. It was a questioning, people that were questioning that weren't quite sure, because they can manipulate you and push you into all of these different things if you're not quite sure. 7119 says tariffs are working. They are working. It's true. See, here's the issue. If you break up the family, you can destroy a whole society. Because they know at the root and at the core of everything, a strong family is what holds up a country. Once you start to put the government as the head of household, you start to lose your ability to be functional outside of the government. I like to call it daddy government, you know? Like, this is what we see. And then we get a whole bunch of Democrats out here that are just like, govern me harder, government, you know? Like, are you serious? And I take this back to Minnesota, where we started off at. Look at what's going on there and across our nation in other places, including where I live in Rochester. We just had, in where I live in my city, a whole bunch of Democrats. My senator, Jeremy Cooney, one of our city council members, and a couple of other different legislatures out there protesting for the lady that got shot in Minnesota. I am so far from Minnesota. You couldn't get much farther from Minnesota and still be in the United States, in the continental United States, than where I am. Stop playing in my face. That ain't got nothing to do with us. When here in Rochester, the city of Rochester, crime is out of control. We've got the second worst quality school district in the nation. What are these crazy people protesting? Are you protesting against the quality of education for our children, which is filling our children, leaving our children not just miserable, but disempowered, and with the lack of an ability to even get a simple basic job at McDonald's? Can we have a conversation about that? No, they're out here protesting for somebody in Minnesota. Ridiculous nonsense. Today is the 18th? Today is the 19th. Today is the 19th. We've had over 25 people shot in my city since the first of the year. And we've had multiple stabbings. Don't even get me started on overdoses. And you want to talk about something that's going on in Minnesota with some woman that got shot because she tried to run people over because she was in a place that she didn't have no business in? Are you serious? And you're my elected representatives? And we're struggling right here? Like nobody ever did anything when they shot up my neighborhood and on my street. This guy was chasing this other guy down and they shot up like 8 houses on my block with a high-powered rifle. And they almost shot my neighbor that lives in the same building as me. It went right across her bed. Like, are we serious? Like, nothing ever got done about that. These crazy people out here. Then they make it harder for you to be a law-abiding citizen and own a firearm. Just last week, it might not even be a whole week yet because it was after Monday that she said it. Kathy Hochul was like, oh, we're going to make it more stricter on firearms. We're going to make it so that you can't print any type of firearm on a 3D printer. Who are you? First of all, gunsmithing is legal in New York State, private gunsmithing. Number 2, who are you to put a whole bunch of software that does God knows what on our actual 3D printers? I appreciate that. Brian says that he just subscribed. Please subscribe to the channel. Okay, like and share, please, you guys. It helps a lot. So who are you to limit our Second Amendment rights? Now, remember, this is the same governor that was out there after the Supreme Court did the Bruin decision. Go look that up. After the Bruin decision, where they said that we can't be may issue state, we have to be a shall issue state, because this guy basically who was an avid hunter couldn't get a pistol permit because they were telling him that he had to prove that he needed it. Well, shoot, we live in New York State. Of course you need a pistol permit. Have you seen the crime? They don't lock criminals up. And aside from him needing one, whether he needs one or doesn't need one, it doesn't matter. Because it's his Second Amendment that says that it shall not be infringed. It's very simple and clear, which is crazy to me that they do everything that they can to limit the Second Amendment and your right to bear arms when it's the only right in the whole Constitution that right there. It's the shortest one. It's the shortest amendment. And it also says shall not be infringed. Like, you have to be retarded or have a problem with reading to understand that that's what it, to not understand that that's what it says. Like, you are the problem. You are the problem. Like, this is a serious issue. We need to have these conversations because this is what's going on in our nation. And we've got these people that are out here talking about, oh, they want to overthrow our country because they're fighting against the government because the government wants to get rid of illegal aliens. I don't give a flying monkey's uncle about illegal aliens. We're not even on pace to reach the same numbers that Obama did. Okay, who deported the most people, like in the history of our history. We're not even to George Bush standards, the son, and we're not to, it's crazy. It's crazy. We're definitely not to Clinton standards of deporting people. Can we have those conversations? And honestly, everybody's like, oh, well, the deportations, they're deporting all of these people, all of this, all of that. They're not deporting enough people for me. I don't care what you say. They're not deporting enough people for me. I want them to deport more people. I want them to deport them faster. I want them to deport them harder. I want them to put them in planes with parachutes and just throw them off the back when they're over their home country. Like, are you serious to me? Are you serious to me? Like, this is serious. Like, you're talking about, oh, well, we should, they're our neighbors. I don't care. If I live next to a whole bunch of criminals, the criminals need to go to prison. Like, they're out here doing stuff they don't got no business doing. They don't, just because they're my neighbors and they out here selling crack to kids, I'm going to let it go because they're my neighbors. I'm going to protect my neighbors that are selling crack to kids from the police, from going to jail. You sound dumb. Sound like a whole fool. It's ridiculous what we're dealing with in our nation. And the fact that they try to tell you, whenever you start talking about these things, they'll be like, oh, well, you shouldn't talk about this or you shouldn't talk about that. Who are you to tell me what I should and shouldn't talk about? How dare you? You bigot. You don't like it because I think differently than you? You don't, maybe if you listen and actually understand, you might understand. And then you wouldn't be a bigot. Like, you're intolerant of people that have different ideas. I'm not intolerant of people that have different ideas. I don't like their ideas. I don't necessarily like or agree with them, but I talk to them. I try to listen to them, but the fact is that they don't want to listen to anybody else. And it goes back to what happened in St. Paul over the weekend. Like the pastor was saying in that church that they just bum rushed themselves into, okay, ransacking the church while the church is in session, talking about they're protesting ICE, ridiculous nonsense. That is a hate crime what they did, and they should all be in prison. But because it's against Christians, nobody wants to talk about it the way that they should. You know, that's a hate crime. If it was a synagogue or a mosque, they'd all be in prison already. But this is a conversation we need to have. Why is it okay for that behavior? Why are they protecting these people that shouldn't be in our country? Why do they think that it's okay to protect those people? Who has fostered that idea in their head? Because clearly who's ever fostered that idea in their head is not looking out for the best interest of the United States of America. They're just not. And it's rather simple to understand. And if we don't talk about these things presently, nobody is going to. This is why I encourage all of you, get active locally. Because we might want to change stuff on the federal level. It's a little more difficult there. But when we get active locally, we can take back power where we are locally. Okay? I encourage you to get your church and motivate your church to get active. If your church does not want to stand up in these times when the church itself is under attack, you need to find another church. If your church isn't preaching directly out of the Bible and isn't a Bible, biblical-based church, you need to find a new church. If your church is affirming gender transition or affirming homosexual lifestyles, you need to find a new church. Okay? If you have a woman that is the head pastor and wearing rainbow flags all across your church, you need to find a new church. A lot of these people are trying to do whatever they can to preach this feel-good gospel for people, telling them, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Just do whatever you want as long as it feels good. That is not the gospel of the Bible. The Bible says that you should deny yourself and deny your flesh of pretty much everything. Anything enjoyable. And that's always been something to me where I've been like, you know, that's a little bit difficult. That's a little bit difficult. And we need to really think about these type of things and these type of issues that we have, because it's hard for us to deny our instant gratification. We very often want to feel good. We very often want to do what we believe is self-justified, not necessarily what's right in the eyes of God the Father. And because we have come this far, because we have gotten to this place where all of this stuff, do whatever you want to, has been normalized, our country is failing. Our country is falling to pieces. Do whatever you want so you don't need a family. Do whatever you want so you don't need a strong church. Do whatever you want so you don't need to actually deal with what comes up as everyday issues yourself without looking to the federal government or the state government and saying, hey, we want what the government wants us to have. We want the government to do more. That's what these people that are, I don't know what you call them, these activists or whatever. I don't know whether you call them leftists or socialists or communists, or it's a great amalgamation or of all of them, right? But a lot of these people are saying they don't want the government to make more federal level policing. They don't want the government to do this. They don't want the government to do that. But then they're out here rioting and acting a fool in the street. So what are you going to do? You're going to usher in the same circumstances that you say that you don't want. Make it make sense to me. And I've been fighting against the militarization of the government and federal policing for years. And here they are doing everything that they can to cause the circumstances to usher in federal policing. Make it stop. I appreciate you guys tuning into the show. You're listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell the people down the street. Tune in Mondays, 2:30 to 4 p.m. I appreciate you guys that are watching online. Share it with your friends and get the message out there, because we need to have these serious conversations. And I really appreciate you all tuning in, and everybody that hasn't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe and follow and share it to some groups too. We'll see you next Tuesday. You guys be blessed and be well. And remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. I'll catch you later.